there is one very underrated benefit that you'll get once you quit porn and masturbation once and for all. And look, I'm not talking about any superpowers. I'm not talking about you get today 500 and finally you're going to get that benefit. I'm talking about a benefit that you're going to experience on day one and that you're going to experience more and more and more as time goes on. And let me explain what that benefit is, since I cannot describe it in one word. You know, when you really want to achieve something, or there's something in your life that is going wrong that you need to fix, right? And you know, one day, or maybe even every day, you sort of like, you know, wake up with that sense of like drive and hunger to go and achieve that goal, or to go and fix that problem. For example, if you know my story, right, I used to be bullied, right? And so back then I had that desire. Obviously this is an unhealthy desire. I'm even going to say a sinful desire that I had back then. But to just use the example, I would have that desire which was in the back of my mind, but because I would, you know, back then when I was younger, distract myself with all of these distractions, video games, PMO, anything you can think about, I would never really be with that desire, if that makes sense, that was in the back of my mind. But once you leave PMO behind, which is a huge distraction for most people, because not only do you spend, you know, minutes on it maybe every day or minutes on it every week, but the state of shame and guilt that you're in after those PMO sessions usually makes you even more distracted, even for longer. And on top of that, the fantasizing that you do beforehand also distracts you, you know, a lot, okay? So what happens once you remove all of these distractions, right, especially PMO, what happens is you get in a state where you feel like you're forced to go and achieve that, okay? To go and finally fix that problem in your life. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you are a man in his late 20s or in the beginning of his 30s who has never been in a relationship, who basically is not even close to being married to a woman, for example, but you really want to be with a woman, okay? Now, here's what's going to happen if you kill PMO and most distractions from your life, okay? You're going to be uncomfortable, okay? So what do I mean by that? There's some days, or maybe even every day, you're gonna have the desire in the back of your mind, since this is also an innate desire, meaning this is a desire that we are predispositioned to. And so you're going to have it, and it's going to somewhat, depending on you, obviously, depending on how you interpret it. But for most people, since this is an innate desire, the way that they're going to interpret that desire naturally is, I need to go and satisfy that. And then you choose how you want to satisfy that. But that's the thing. You're going to feel like you're forced to satisfy that desire, okay? And so as long as you don't distract yourself, you're going to be in a state where you're going to find ways to go and achieve that desire, okay? Or to satisfy that desire. For example, if you're there and you're just, you know, going to work, for example, and in the back of your mind, you're like, man, I'm in my late 20s, you know, I've never been married, I never want to be married, I really want to have children. Suddenly you're going to feel like, you know, I really need this right now. Like, you're going to feel it emotionally, right? And if you don't distract yourself from those feelings, where it might even get uncomfortable because that desire that you're going to feel might even, you know, get bigger, what's going to happen is, again, you're going to be in a state where it's going to force you to take action towards that. And obviously, if you take actions, you're going to get results. So I was talking to one of my students actually yesterday, right? He's a very successful entrepreneur. You know, he's actually younger than most people I coach. And, you know, he's dialed in when it comes to fitness. He's dialed in when it comes to many areas of life. So kudos to him. And one thing I told him is about the story of Caesar, right? So Caesar, you know, the emperor that basically went on and did a lot of conquest. As you know, he's a known guy in history, basically, right? In the Roman Empire. And so Caesar, when he was in his 30s, he saw a statue of Alexander the Great, right? Alexander the Great lived, you know, right before him. But Alexander the Great, by the age of 26, basically achieved everything that Caesar wanted to achieve. Okay, Alexander the Great literally conquered like basically almost everything, right? And he did so many things that Caesar was impressed by. And Caesar was in his 30s and realized that he didn't achieve even like 1% of what Alexander the Great did. And Caesar was older than when Alexander the Great died, right? And so he literally fell down on his knees. Caesar, like, he fell down on his knees and he started crying because he felt like, he didn't do anything. Like he didn't, fulfill his potential, basically, right? And from that day, Caesar went on and took so much action to go and do all of these conquests, right? To go and take risks, he went on multiple like crazy stories in order to really just have power in the Roman Empire and go and conquer and kill other people, whatever. But basically, the moral of the story is, I told my students, do you really think if Caesar just went on and let's say that he had access to our technology, he had all of these feelings inside of sadness, of anger, of, I haven't done anything with my life, I need to do something with this, like where you feel like uncomfortable about that. If Caesar went on and just did nothing but distract himself, go and watch, let's say that he had access to Instagram Reels, access to porn, masturbation, access to video games. Let's say that he decided to do that, right? Or even if we take the distractions at this time, breads and circuses and things of that nature, right? Maybe overeating and just stuffing himself with food and just going to sleep with, all of the women in the empire, right? If he did that, right, do you really think we would have known Caesar today? No. And so there's huge power in not distracting yourself. Most people in this society, I don't like saying this, but most people in society, this is the reality, whenever they feel a bit uncomfortable because there's a problem in their life that they need to fix, but they know that it's going to take work, or if there is something which they wanted to achieve for so long, let's say they wanted to build a business for the past 5 years, but they never really took action, it feels uncomfortable to face that reality that you haven't took action and that nothing's going to change if you continue like this, right? But once you don't have the distraction, you don't distract yourself from that reality, what's going to happen is naturally, it's going to force you to take action towards fixing that problem or towards improving your life. And so when you do that on a long enough time horizon, that's when your life does a complete 180 and you make 10 times the progress that you would make in 1 year. You'll make like literally the progress that you'll make in 10 years, you'll make it in 1 year. It's just that we live in a society, again, where everyone distracts himself whenever something bad happens to them or whenever something is uncomfortable. Same thing with PMO. Let's say with PMO, the number one thing for most people, even though there's no clear connection, but for most people there is like a learned connection, right? Where they say to people, not to people, but people believe that they PMO because they really want to be with a woman, but they can't be with a woman, right? Because whatever, they're not married, they don't have any relationships, whatever. Like they're not even close to, for example, being married if that's their goal, right? What's going to happen, okay, is if you really, really want to be with a woman, even if you feel like you're not worthy, even if you feel like you're ugly, even if you feel like you're too weak, even if you feel like you're not masculine enough, okay? If you don't distract yourself and you really want to be with a woman, right, because of that innate desire, you're going to find a way to go and improve those aspects of your life that needs to be fixed in order to be with a woman, or you're going to go and take action to be with a woman as soon as possible, okay? And so that's the thing. You're literally getting the best case scenario, okay? You're literally going to go and live your life and achieve whatever you want to achieve. And when I say achieve, I don't just mean like money and like, surface level stuff, right? I mean like meaningful things that you actually want to pursue. You're actually going to do it because you're going to be forced to. You're not in, focusing on something else and completely forgetting about that problem or that desire that you want to pursue, right? And that's the power of it. Trust me. Go and try to, not scroll on social media 5 hours a day. Go and try to not PMO every single day, obviously. And for PMO, I highly recommend you just leave it behind and you don't even care about it, right? And you just say, you know what, I'm gonna leave it behind. Don't even think about the days, don't even think about anything. Go and try to just stop playing video games. Obviously, I'm not saying that those things are bad necessarily objectively. I'm just saying that once you live without any distractions, you're going to confront reality. And once you're going to confront reality, obviously there's going to be problems that you haven't fixed in years that you're going to be able to fix. And once you fix those problems, trust me, you're going to make a ton of progress, right? Like those problems of, for example, oh, I have bad social skills. So whenever you face a social situation, you feel shy and then you can't even talk to anyone. Well, now you're going to be you're going to be forced to fix that, right? Because you're basically like, you gotta live life. You cannot go live in those distractions, right? And that's the power of it, right? It's the same as if you said, you know what, I'm gonna stop playing video games and instead I'm gonna take, the same way I was upgrading that character in video games, I'm gonna upgrade my character in real life, right? And as cliche as it might sound, based on what I'm saying right now, you need to realize that there's huge power in not distracting yourself, because you're going to get to a point where you're going to feel uncomfortable because of those desires, right? Desires or meaningful things that you want to pursue, or important things in your life, or the problems or the challenges that you need to overcome that will allow you to go to the next level, right? That's what's going to happen. It's going to force you to be in that state where you're going to be forced to constantly take action towards that. And when I say force, it means like you're going to be driven and hungry to go and do those things, right? And that's the power of it. So please go and do that and get back to me with the results.